welcome to my channel. My name is Dawn and I'm the Ginger Cat Stitcher here on YouTube. And this is my floss tube number 5. So welcome back. It's nice to have you here. What have I been up to since my last floss tube? I have been stitching. I started a new stitch and I have been playing with Ziploc bags and making project bags. So that's what I have for you today, is an update on my new stitch and then a short tutorial on how to make a super simple project bag. And if you can sew a somewhat straight line and can make a pillowcase, you can make one of these project bags with things that you already have at home and no need to worry about a zipper. So let's jump right in. My first thing up is what I've been stitching is 3 little kittens. And got a pretty good start. I'm using the called for colors on a 14 count Aida. This is just from Hobby Lobby. It was just the color in the package. But I'm loving the way that it's coming out. So that's what I've been stitching. And I always like to have a cute project bag for any new project that I start. So I've been making these project bags, playing around with Ziploc bags to come up with an easy way with no zipper. Don't have to run to the store and buy a zipper. So first one that I made was this one. And this one, fully lined. They're all fully lined. And you'll see, instead of the zipper, I use the Ziploc from the plastic bag. I think my cat just left. Yes, Percy just decided to leave. Hold on 1 second. I need to teach him how to close the door behind him when he leaves. So this is the large size, and for this one I used the hefty 2.5 gallon storage bags. And you need to make sure that you get the slider. So that one, and then this one I put some fusible fleece in it to make it have a little bit more structure and to help it stand up on the shelf a little bit more. Again, use the zipper, fully lined. Then I decided to make some smaller ones and I got fancy with them. So I cut out my fabric for the front and the back, and then I just cut them in half and then stitched 2 together. Then I added this really cute little mini pom-pom trim. I thought that looked like little eggs to go with my rooster and all of the hens. And then this one uses the small slider from the gallon size. And then again, they're fully lined. And there we go. And then this was the last one that I made. This is a piece of stamped cross stitch that my mom picked up for me at her thrift store. And I thought that it was the perfect size for a project bag. Again, I used the slider from the gallon size. And I have to say I prefer the sliders from the from the freezer bags. They're just thicker and a little more sturdy than the storage bags, but I could not find the 2.5 gallon in a freezer. So I'll be on the lookout for that. And there's the back. Slides. Oops, I just closed it. Slides open. And again, the bags are fully lined, perfect size to slip a project into. So let's go ahead and take a look at how these are made. So the first fabric project bag that I made was this one. And I did not put any kind of lining or, fusible interfacing in it. So it's a very soft-sided bag. But here is that slider that I used as my zipper. And just a closer up view. Fully lined. Super easy to do. So that was the first one that I made. And this one measures approximately like 14 inches wide by about 11.5 inches high. So a nice large project bag. Then the second one that I did, I wanted to try it with the fusible fleece. And that made this one, which has a lot more body to it, like I said. And really cute fabric. And just used the large slider again, lined it. So then I did that one. Then here's a closer view of the gallon size bag. And these are approximately, about 11.5, 11, somewhere between 10.5, 11 inches wide by the same, about 11 inches high. And like this is really easy to do. You just cut your fabric piece in half and then stitch it together. Press your seam flat and then just use it as your outside pieces. Ziploc works nice and easy. There's the lining. Get better light over here. So there's the lining. And then here's that last one that I did. Super simple. So if you can sew straight lines, they don't even have to be perfectly straight, you can make one of these. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you how to do it. So first up is you want to take your plastic bag, and for this demonstration I'm going to make one of the big ones. And then you're going to want to cut the zipper or the slide off of the rest of the bag at about 1 inch. Doesn't have to be exactly 1 inch, but about 1 inch. And you just cut it. I'm working on coming up with an idea to use all of the leftover bag parts. I don't want to just throw them away, so I'm working on coming up with an idea of how to repurpose these. But for now, we're just going to set that aside. So you're going to be working with just the top slide part. So we got that cut. Now we're going to put that aside. Next, you are going to need to choose your bag fabric. I chose this cute, it used to be a pillowcase, and it is painted, embroidery paint, I think it is. So this cute little design is painted on there, and the pillowcase itself was in rough shape, and there's a couple stains. So I only cut up things that need to be upcycled into something else. I don't damage old linens that are in great shape. So this is what I chose for my front of my bag. And then I chose my back fabric. And then I chose to have the lining be the same as the back. Now I'm going to put the measurements for all these pieces for the large 2.5 gallon as well as the small 1 gallon down below in the description. But just to let you know, these are 14.75 inches wide and 12 3/4 inches high. So again, that's 14.75 wide, 12.75 high for my lining, my back, and my front. For the gallon size, you're going to want 11 3/4 wide by 12 3/4 high. And like I said, I put those all down below. So you want to get those cut out and press them nicely. I find it so much easier when things are pressed and not all wrinkled. Then you're going to want to have 2 pieces of the iron-on fusible fleece. So one side of it is very bumpy with all the little glue dots, and then the other side is very soft. This you're going to want to cut out to be the same measurements as your front piece and your back piece. However, you want it about 1 inch shorter, because this part is going to be folded over. So you don't want your fleece up there to create too much bulk. So step 1 is to get your fabrics together, cut them out to the measurements, iron them nice, and then cut out your fusible fleece. Then step 2 is going to be to iron the fusible fleece to the back of your front piece and the back of your back piece. So I'm going to go over to the iron and I'm going to do that right now, and then I will be right back. All right, I'm back and I have ironed on the fusible fleece, and then I have also ironed this over just to crease it, just to help it fold over a little easier. But you don't want to sew it with that folded over, so you want to open it back up. So there's the back, and then here's the front. With that fusible fleece on there, it just stabilizes it so much better. But by all means, go ahead and use what you have. And if you don't have any, like I did my first one, you don't have to have it. It works just fine. So now I'm going to take my front and back piece, put them together, right sides together. Line them up to the best that I can get them. And use my clips to hold them together. I'm going to stitch this with 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the measurements that I gave you are for these seam allowances. 1/4 inch seam allowance for the front and the back piece. Now I have my inside lining, and I'm going to put this right sides together, or sorry, wrong sides together. So now I have my lining, and I'm going to put this right sides together. And again, line them up to the best that you can, and you can tell my cutting isn't perfectly straight, but that's okay because it'll all even out once you sew it together. So then I'm going to use my clips again and clip this together. Now for the bag lining, you want it to be smaller, slightly smaller than the outside of your bag so that it can fit down in there nicely and not be all bunched. So we cut them the same size just for the sake of ease, but we're going to sew this one with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So the fronts and backs get sewed together 1/4 inch, and the inside lining gets sewed together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch these up. I'm going to leave the top open, and I'm going to stitch down the sides. And I always do the sides first. So I'm going to stitch down the side and then down this side with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to stitch from here to here on the bottom, leaving the top open. So it's like you're making a pillowcase. So that just the sides and then the bottom. Same thing for the top. I'm going to leave the top open. I'm going to make sure that these 2 flaps are up, I'm just going to stitch down the sides, do the sides first, and then I'll come back and I'll stitch the bottom, and I'll have like another pillowcase. So I'm going to go do that real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, I have everything sewn together. Here's my lining, and I'm going to keep it right sides together. I am going to trim off the excess down to leaving about 1/8 of an inch between the edge of the fabric and my stitching. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim off the bulk, and then I'll be right back. Okay, all the bulk is trimmed off of this one down to about 1/8 of an inch from my stitching, and I made my corners down here as small as possible so that now we can turn it right sides out. And trimming it down like that helps reduce the bulk, since you have the fusible fleece on both pieces. It gets to be kind of bulky, so make sure I press out that corner. And I'll come over here and press out this corner. And there we have it. So super simple, just 3 straight lines, and that's all you need. We're going to take this and go ahead and tuck it down in there now, so we have a nice finished edge on the top. And for our lining, we're going to leave it this way. We're going to fold the top edge out on this one, and you absolutely can hit it with an iron to make that have more of a crease right there, or you can finger press it. So we're going to set our lining aside for right now, and we're going to insert our slide from our Ziploc bag. So you're going to need some glue stick. I just have the Elmer's purple. It's just an all-purpose glue stick. Let's see, we want it to be closed when it's this way. So we're gonna put it like this, take our glue stick, and generously apply glue right up to the colored edge. Now this isn't what holds the bag together. This is just holding it while we assemble the lining and get over to the sewing machine. So now I'm going to take my slider and I'm going to stick it right in there. And I'm going to make my fabric meet right up with that colored edge. You can't go down farther than the colored edge because the slide needs to be able to slide across your fabric. So with just a little bit of fiddling, right here, we need to get that down in there a little bit. So just a little bit of fiddling with it, and we get that stuck on there. So now we're going to apply, got a thread in there, glue to this side to stick this part down. So this part might be hard to show you. I think if I fold it back like that. So I'm just going to apply glue the same way that I did to the other side, making sure that I get these corners to help hold our fabric down. Let's get that in there. And again, just a little bit of fiddling with it so that we can get our fabric right up to the color area. Ah, go away. And you can go ahead and open your slide. Help get that plastic down in there. Make sure that the front looks good. Make sure sure that the back is lined up. That looks good. Oops, poking out there a little bit. Get that down in there. Just give that a press. There we go. Wasn't hard at all. A little bit fiddly sometimes, but definitely not difficult to put in there at all. Now it's time for the lining. So we have our zipper bag open. There's the inside. And we're just going to put our lining down in there. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to put glue right here and glue the lining right there. And then glue over here and glue the lining right there. So I'm going to use my fingers and get this lining down into the corners. It doesn't have to be perfectly wrinkle-free down in there yet. We can do that once it's all attached. So my lining's going to go in there like that. And like that. So once again, I get my glue stick. And this is the inside. So I'm going to put my glue stick down in there. And I'm going to have my lining fabric do the same thing. Come right up to the color mark. Just like that. Now I'll turn this over. And then again, this is the inside. We're going to go ahead and put our glue stick all over it again. And then lay our lining fabric down, coming right up to the edge where the color is. And then that part's down. So my lining fabric is right up to the edge of where the color is, and then, oops, same with my back fabric. We'll lay the whole thing down, kind of give it a nice press. You want to wait for just a little bit for that glue to grab. Now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch this whole thing in place. So I'm going to start over here on the side without the slide, and I'm going to get as close up in there as I can. I'm going to open it up and slide it onto the bed of my sewing machine. Now, because this is sealed right there, you're not going to be able to get it all the way to the seam, but that's okay. So just go ahead and get it back as far as you can, and then come all the way over here. And again, the slide does not come all the way off. I've got this little tab to prevent it from coming off, so it's not going to open up all the way. But you're just going to sew over as far as you can go. Same thing with this side. We're going to sew as close as we can get, all the way over to this side, as close as we can get. And then I'll show you how we'll finish it off after that. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch this all down. I'll be right back. Okay, we have the slide all sewn in. It's top stitched. That's holding the Ziploc bag slider in. It's nice and lined. And this is what I was talking about, is it doesn't open up all the way, so you're not able to get all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'll close this, and then I'm just going to stitch on my machine from here to here, just to give it a finished look and make sure that this corner of the bag is secure in there. Same on this side. I'm going to go ahead and stitch from here to here to make sure that this corner is really secured into the bag. You could, of course, also do this by hand. You could do the whole bag hand sewing if you wanted to. And then you could also put this part in by hand if you wanted to. And that way you would be able to get all the way up. But opens and closes nice and easy. I'm just obsessed with making these. They're so quick and easy using materials that you already have on hand. Just about everybody has slide Ziploc bags and fabric. And if you're looking for fabric, if you don't have a fabric stash, fabric at the stores can be so expensive. It's gorgeous, but it's so expensive. If you're looking for a low-cost solution, there we go, a low-cost solution, I would recommend going to your thrift store. And not necessarily looking for yards of fabric at the thrift store, but there's a ton of fabric in a thrift store. Look at tablecloths and table runners and curtains and even bed sheets. Lots of times there'll be old linens hanging up with the linens in the thrift store. Also clothes. Don't overlook clothes. Skirts have at least a yard of fabric, sometimes more. So skirts, pants, they don't give you the widest yardage, but skirts especially are fantastic. Bed skirts. So there's a lot of fabric to be had at the thrift store. Just look outside of the box. So I'm going to go ahead and go stitch right here and right here really quick, and I'll be back. And there you have it. There's our completed bag. So I went from the edge over to where my top stitching was, from the edge over to where my top stitching was. Make sure the corners are in there nice. So an absolutely adorable project bag, super simple, using materials you have on hand. But if this isn't easy enough for you, I have an even easier one. I have my gallon size Ziploc bag and my fabric. This is like a canvas, so no lining. My lining is going to be my Ziploc bag. This one I did a little differently. I made a boxed corner. If you've never made a boxed corner before, very easy to do. You sew your essentially like a pillowcase. So you sew down the sides and across the bottom, just like we did with the other one. But then you open it up and match your side seam with your bottom seam, and you just use your fingers and feel that they're one right on top of the other, and then you just sew straight across. And depending on how far back you sew, that changes the width of your bottom. And the reason why I did this is because the Ziploc bags that I have that expandable bottom so that they can stand while you fill them. So that's the reason why I did the small little boxed corner. So again, this is just like we did before. And in order to measure the fabric, I just laid my Ziploc bag down on top of my fabric, and I cut out a quarter inch bigger on all three sides and left an inch up top. So that's even easier to get your fabric measurements. You just lay your Ziploc bag, and that would work for the large one as well. If you're doing the large one, you can just lay that down on your fabric. Make sure you cut a quarter inch on each side and a quarter inch on the bottom, and leave an inch across, up above for your fold over part. So once we do that, cut out our fabric, we sew it up just like a pillowcase, turn it right side out, poke out that back boxed corner there. fold in the top inch or so of our fabric. Then we're just going to insert our Ziploc bag. And that is going to be our lining. So we're going to put the glue on here, just like we did with the other one. Get that glued in and top stitch around there. And then you have an adorable project bag. And the benefit of this way is it's washable on the inside. So if you have anything leak, it'd be perfect for glues or pens, markers. If it leaked, it's not going to ruin your fabric. Also, you can use this, if you're a rug hooker, you can use this for your wool strips. They leave lots of wool dust all over everything and end up staining your fabric a lot of the times. So this way, it's just a Ziploc bag. You'll be able to pull out the lining, clean that off, push it back in. Good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down and stitch it up on my machine and show you the final project. I'll be back in just a minute. There we are, all sewed up. And the nice lining of the bag. It's waterproof, leak-proof. Cute little fabric. Project bag. Don't think anything could get much quicker than this. And you could absolutely do it with the large one as well. It doesn't have to be with the gallon size. And you could make it longer. Just your imagination's the limit. So there you are. Easy project bags. Somebody stole my seat. So I'll just talk to you from up here. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I hope that you make a super simple project bag. Thanks, and happy stitching. See you next time.